I presume you're here in order to learn of Magecraft. I'll have you know, there's no room for the weak-willed in this course, and despite your best efforts, the sorcery of our time is but a fraction of what it once was in the Age of Gods. Much of the craft is established through pedigree, and the culture of mages is riddled with deception and moral depravity. That said, if you insist, I shall do my best to educate you in this miserable, yet fascinating world. In our previous lesson, I spoke of the many ways that mages contend with artificial intelligence, destroying the notion that mages are technologically inept. Even without literal computers, mages have long since mastered the art of imbuing creatures with artificial consciousness. Familiars like automatons need to function independently from their masters. Another example of this happens to be golems, which have a lot in common with puppets and homunculi. Some might say the differences are semantic. Regardless, I would like to dedicate this lesson to the art of golemancy, covering it in greater detail than I did before. Fundamentally, the term golem means embryo and refers to a being that is molded into existence. Golemancy, then, is the art of trying to replicate God's miracle of creation, specifically the primordial human Adam. As described in Genesis, the Lord molded man out of the dust of the ground and breathed life into him through his nostrils. One could certainly argue that Magecraft itself is a process of playing God, but golemancy is a more particular process where earthly materials are arranged in an effort to make life. To clear away the semantics, a key part of this practice is the intention behind it. Golems are usually more rudimentary than puppets, which meticulously emulate our own anatomical structure. Other familiars require the use of a once-living corpse. Golemancy, however, allows mages to shape their very own creations from varied designs and materials. Like most things in our craft, the art of making golems has seen considerable decline in modern times. Compared to the Age of Gods, the golems of today are much weaker, and not even a lifetime of practice from a contemporary mage can compete with the golems of old. Part of this can be attributed to how modern mages have lost sight of their original goal, to specifically recreate Adam himself. Mages in Israel between the 2nd and 9th centuries developed the craft for this specific purpose. Said goal is heavily tied to Kabbalah, as its forefather, Solomon ibn Gabirol, sought to create his masterpiece, the golem Keter Malcuth. Such a golem could not just be strong. It needed to embody Adam's existence and act as a great king who would lead suffering humans to the Garden of Eden. Nevertheless, pulling this off required an endless supply of mana, which in turn would require a prolific core made from a first-class mage. Gabirol, more famously known as Avisebron, never did procure such a core during his lifetime. His ultimate golem became an unfinished project, and as a heroic spirit, it remains his primary directive. While no modern mage can create such a golem, Avisebron retains his ancient mystery in a time where the ideal core is more prolific. Avisebron's own master, Roche Frayne Yigidamilenia, makes for a highly compatible core due to his profound love for golemancy. The poor boy, even as a prodigy, is best suited as a material for the golem rather than its creator. In all fairness, the golem Keter Malcuth is more of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Even though he never made it in life, Avisebron's servant form has the golem's legend inscribed upon him, allowing him to finally complete the golem as his noble phantasm. To that end, golem Keter Malcuth is a walking reality marble, whose every step generates Eden beneath its feet. This masterpiece could grow to an unstoppable size, and was mainly defeated by servants attacking it during its infancy. Avisebron's techniques, and by extension those of Kabbalism, use traditional ingredients like soil, stone, and wood. These can be mixed with ancient artifacts containing mystery, such as old parchment. While golems come in many shapes and sizes, the Kabbalistic ideal is humanoid. One of these traditional golems is Yubstahite von Einsburn, a golem so human-like that he's virtually indistinguishable from the homunculi he creates. The Einsburn mages who made him entrusted him the task of reproducing their ideal homunculus Justice. I suppose a key difference here is that Eubstahite maintains a lifespan exceeding his creators and creations alike. He's preserved the Einsburn family's knowledge across 8 replacement bodies, which is more efficient than having to pass that knowledge down from master to disciple every generation. Over the years, golemancy has drifted from creating Adam to manufacturing servant golems with less defined shapes. Many golems are used for combat, featuring bulkier builds meant to defend against attacks. Other golems are used for espionage as a sort of earthly spy drone. They can also take the shape of insects or other animals. Even the clock tower makes regular use of golems for basic labor tasks. The following are examples of more rare and noteworthy golems seen throughout history. While never classified officially as a golem, I do want to give mention to Enkidu, a genderless being molded by the gods from clay. Golemancy is a human art after all. Still, Enkidu's story greatly resembles what other golems could become. The original being was a monstrous creature, ordered to learn how to be human. Their human form was shaped from a 7-night passion with Shamat, a sacred prostitute. This would count as a polytheistic model one could use as the foundation of golemancy. One of the rarest golems is a dragon inhabiting the 7th labyrinth of Kalbak Alcatraz. Like the Keter Malcuth, this dragon has a powerful magic core, one that's the Magecraft equivalent of a nuclear reactor. We can call it a dragon golem, though it's mostly a chimeric mixture of snakes, reptiles, and bats. The golem's scales act as metal armor, a testament to its robust ingredients. It appears dead apostles also hold an interest in golemancy. Valery Fernand van Delsta, or Van Fem for short, is the 14th of the 27 dead apostle ancestors, and has been alive since the Age of Gods. Back then, he was an exceptional mage who turned himself into a vampire, never actually being bitten by another. This conversion was merely a step toward perfecting his puppetry. As opposed to puppet masters like Toko Aozaki, Van Fem specializes in large-scale golems. His nickname, Van Fem of the Demonic Castle, refers to 7 massive golems that double as entire fortresses. Much of the time, these golems take the shape of humanoid women, whom he refers to as his daughters. 2 of these daughters are specifically named. There's the 5th daughter, Matri, but we know much more about Cupola, the youngest golem. She's essentially Van Fem's bodyguard, capable of shapeshifting to meet his needs. This includes expanding the size of her hands and growing extra mouths for singing. Her attacks are all different serenades, each designed for unique situations. Beyond her own offensive might, she's a type of puppet who can manipulate others through puppetry. Van Fem, since becoming a vampire, has been unable to use spells that require a human foundation. He skirts this rule by having Cupola control his body with tethered rings. Vicariously through her, he can cast spells like Vermilion Tremor, which transforms seawater into blood. This works because Van Fem's 7 castles were made while he was still human. As you can see, golems and puppets share a decent overlap. Just as Toko Aozaki's puppets are sophisticated enough to serve as replacement bodies, so too can golems serve as the vessel for human souls. Such is the case for Jester Karture, a dead apostle who can hop from one body to the next when dying. His current form traces back to when he was a little girl turned dead apostle by Van Fem. His new bodies needn't retain the same sex or even species. One of Jester's bodies is a steel golem capable of self-destruction in an emergency. Those unaware of his ability may think he's dead, only to learn later that he just escaped to a new vessel. If golems can be made from steel, surely bones count as a sufficient ingredient. Latio Crudelis Hiram is a mage from the Atlas Institute, specifically one of its 6 sources. Her alchemy constructs her family's bones into golem familiars, or exoforms, ranging from bird, wolf, and spider skeletons. Unlike the undead, these creatures have no need for a soul, and just happen to be made from bones as her family's ingredient of choice. Her penultimate golem is the humanoid bone giant Tangier. Latio controls her familiars directly, making use of memory partition to give them each a unique consciousness. Tangier takes up 2 of Latio's partitions, allowing him to speak and analyze his opponents. When discussing golems, we can't possibly omit the melloi mystic code Tremau. Originally Cainith's volumen Hydrargerum, a shape-shifting mass of Mercury, Waver Velvet, and Rhinus melloi Archisort inherited the code and reprogrammed it into a made golem. This golem, Tremau, follows Rhinus as a general servant and bodyguard. To avoid revealing herself in public, she compresses her Mercury to fit inside Rhinus's suitcase. Her transformative ability is quite versatile. In combat, she can either arrange her arms into hammers or her whole body into a suit of armor. As a mist, she can project images into the air and even act as someone's miniature proxy for long-distance communication. You can ride her as a horse, dispatch her as a sentinel, or even employ her as a golem calculator for data analysis. More obscure is a young mage named Harriet Freese. She's a freshman at Kagamisaki High School who uses Alrune, a familiar that vicariously generates soil golems. Harriet can rely on Alrune to conjure dozens of golems simultaneously. This supplements her own fighting ability, which is fairly weak by itself. The witch Alice Kuonji specializes in her family's ploy kickshaw, a series of familiars and mystic codes invented from fairy tales and nursery rhymes. Her largest ploy, arguably, is the Thames Troll, a golem based on London Bridge is falling down. It can only be summoned with a river nearby, and exists in 4 separate stages based on its components, ranging from wood, stone, metal, and gold. Each form has its own unique abilities. In summation, golems are part of a larger family of autonomous familiars, including puppets and homunculi, all of which count as artificial life with the capacity for intelligence. What sets golems apart is their original intention, as mankind's attempt to replicate God's creation of Adam. Kabbalist mages sought more humanoid forms born from natural ingredients, but over time, golemancy grew to include more creative designs. More powerful golems require magic cores to fuel them, which can be made artificially or channeled through a sacrificial mage. Unlike homunculi, golems are more versatile, able to survive for longer by being swapped out or modified. Newer golems may not resemble their ancient counterparts, but they still rely on the mystery of God's miracle. So many familiars have been made from that miracle, yet none of them have actually lived up to its mighty splendor. Still, even a byproduct can be tremendously useful. Our next lesson comes from a student's suggestion, asking to revisit the clock tower. More specifically, we'll be performing a deeper analysis of the Institute's various lords. I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. Video Gamer 75, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Mystic Samurai 1983, Otaku Mom, Freebrick, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Lunar Works, Link Pendrago, Observer Bellis, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Crow Calum, Saul Soto, Major, Matal Mataru, Winter's Edge, Sneer Cachette, Sunbro Torian, Foxbox, Alzinga Falgon, Caitlin P, Sith Lord 906, Vladimirovna, The Taz 96, Kengo X77, and Alistair Bernadotte. Thank you all so much.